Ooh, that looks tasty. Before this episode gets started, I just need to point out that there was an issue with my microphone during this podcast, and as a result, my audio is very, very hot. And I've edited it as much as I can, but you will notice that my audio sounds a little bit strange. That does persist throughout this entire episode, but I have fixed it for the next episode. Sorry about that.
Welcome, folks. Dave the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews, and I am rejoined after his sabbatical by occasional guest host, Original Don, co-designer of Backyard Chickens. You notice I actually said co-designer today?
Well done.
I finally
That's
caught that.
trained.
Yeah. So the fun fact is, I know Don far more than I know his son Adrian, who apparently did all the real work, and Don just put his name on it, he says, which I don't believe, but that's what he says. And I have a tendency to just talk about the person I'm in the room with. And so even like when I talk about Merchant's Cove, I'll be like, oh, yeah, Carl, the designer of Merchant's Cove. Oh, yeah, Drake, the designer. But every time I say it, Don is such a good dad. He's like, no. My son needs his credit. So everybody, if you hear me say Original Don, designer of Backyard Chickens, please comment and say co-designer, just so I can be put in my place. Again,
as a rule. I won't say he did all of the real work. I'll say he did the clever work, made it something, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, all Don did was name it.
I did the hours of playtesting. I took it to a lot of places where he wasn't and like put it through the ringer.
Yeah.
But the thing, like every previewer, reviewer, whatever that looked at the game, like the thing they all comment on is the mood mechanic for the chickens, and that was all Adrian. I think that was his inspiration, and it made the game.
And just in case somebody's getting all hot and bothered about their chickens now, where can they get a copy of Backyard Chickens?
So it's only just like sitting in inventory with the publisher, but they've got probably a couple hundred copies still. And you can find the easiest way to find the link is go find the Kickstarter page for Backyard Chickens, and it has it's an order now button there where it used to say back it. And that takes you to a pre-order page, but it's just like when you pre-order it, it means Ordermaster Logistics puts it in a box and sends it to you.
And
that's the easiest way.
And what if they want the solo mode? What do they have to do?
Oh, that's on it's a free print and play. You can find it on the BGG page, or you can go to GameCrafter or the GameCrafter. I was blanking on their name for a second there. So Dan, the publisher, put it up on GameCrafter in case people want, actual professional cards. I need to order some copies myself. I ordered a few and immediately gave them all away.
And what if they want a signed copy?
Oh, you have to find us at a con. And don't just find me at a con, because it's not worth anything with my signature on it. You got to get Adrian's, and that's more elusive.
See earlier conversation about Don is not the only designer of this game. All right.
Yeah. So we were at KublaCon last year, and somebody bought a copy from me after playing it with the publisher. And I happened to be there. Like, I happened to wander up just as they were finishing, and I had a copy with me. And he's like, "Can I buy it?" And so I sold it to him. And then I gave him directions to go find Adrian, who was demoing Omicron Protocol for Dead Alive Games downstairs. And so he went and found him and got his signature. And so that was a fun experience. I think that was the first time we signed the game for strangers.
Yeah, it is, it's possible that my copy right over my shoulder doesn't have Adrian's signature on it.
It probably doesn't.
It's possible. I'll have to bring that up, or just live in ignominy for the rest of my life, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm glad you mentioned. Well, before we jump into what we're talking about today and what we're going to be talking about, what is your brewed beverage today? Now, everybody, it is 11 a.m. So we're in a little different world. So sorry, 4 Point. No free publicity today.
They just need to branch out into coffee.
That's true.
I've got a 4 Point coffee. Please sponsor Will's channel. I am drinking a latte that I made myself. One of the big highlights of DonCon 2, which we're going to talk about, is I bought a fancy Nespresso machine that arrived the first day of the con. So we had a lot of fun playing with it. And so I have a Nespresso coffee or latte. It came with a little milk frothing machine, which is far too cool. So that's what I'm drinking.
Yeah, the cool thing about those is I have one that's similar to that. Is I'm pretty sure you can do a cold froth also.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great. So I'm also drinking coffee in my Omicron Protocol mug. Publishers, designers, if you want me to drink coffee out of your game mug, just send me one.
There you go.
Actually, please don't. I don't need any more coffee mugs. That's a terrible idea. I don't need that. But for my wife for Christmas, I got her a Coffee of the Month Club. She was very excited about it. So I don't know what I'm drinking, but it's the Coffee of the Month. Something I'd never heard of. So good job, Coffee of the Month Club. Sponsor my channel. Everyone just sponsor my channel so I can get free stuff.
We mentioned Nespresso. They should sponsor your channel.
Yeah, Nespresso, sponsor my channel, but send it to Don.
Also, it's a Starbucks pod that I use, so Starbucks can sponsor your channel too.
Oh, you didn't have the fancy. Now, the cool thing about this is Nespresso thing is I was getting all judgy, but the pods are actually recyclable.
That's what won me over. I have avoided the pod thing for years because it just feels so wasteful, and it's still a little wasteful. But I got tired of making a whole pot of coffee, and then I'm the only one drinking it, and half of it gets thrown out, and it also feels wasteful. Yeah. So the recyclable pods make a difference.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, they got to have one of those like ones you can fill yourself too.
Yes. Yeah, you can get those.
So you got options. Is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for the 3 people that are still listening, because we haven't talked anything games. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to go through our games we've played recently, what's got coming next, and then we're going to do a little deep dive into DonCon 2, which is a local con to Don's room that he's sitting in, and to kind of talk a little bit about this idea that, and I have another one coming up this summer, Powdered Wig Con 2, because Mark Dainty is coming to visit. But this kind of idea of taking what's really a game day and then making it a glorified game day, making a whole event out of it, and kind of the fun that goes along with that. We'll talk about some of our hits from the con and all of that. But to start out, first things first, what have you been playing lately, Don? And then we'll get to what's next on the table.
So DonCon 2 just happened, so lots of games there, but we'll talk about those some more. But between then and now, so Peter Vaughn, who came to DonCon 2, brought me a late birthday present. He brought me a copy of Meadow, which has been all the rage for a while, but I had not gotten to it. And my wife and I have played it a couple of times in the last week, and it's fantastic. It's a nice tableau builder, I guess you'd call it. You're drafting cards from a meadow. You're using these little path tokens to decide kind of where you're going to take an action, and it tells you what card you can take from the meadow, or it tells you what special action you can take if you put it around the campfire. I won't try to explain the whole game, but you're getting ground cards that establish the terrain, and then you can get cards that can go on that terrain, and they are usually worth points. And then there are other cards that can go on those, like you might get a bug card that goes on a certain type of terrain, and then you can get a bird card that wants to eat that bug, and it goes on top of it. And they kind of layer over each other, so you can still see the points for everything. And there are.
Oh, they like the clear plastic card type things?
No, it's more just like you leave the bottom of the card visible.
Oh, I see.
You overlap the top. But like now you don't have that bug available as an icon in your meadow, so you're giving something up every time you do that. Because then there are these landscape cards that are, you can put this above your meadow if you have these certain symbols in your meadow. And so if you cover up one that the landscape wants, you then have to go get that symbol again and put it in your meadow. So that's kind of the whole thing. It's like I was expecting more math in this game, like if you have this, you're going to multiply it times this. And it's really just.
Yeah, nothing's more exciting in a game than math.
Yeah. And so this is really just, if I can get this card in my meadow, it's worth 2 points. And if I can get this card, it's worth 3 points. And then you just add it all up at the end. And there are some little combo targets around the campfire that are variable setup kind of thing. Like if you have these 2 symbols, when you go take a campfire action, you can put one of your scoring tokens between the 2 symbols. And that's kind of a little race. That's, the player interaction.
So like a hobbit or a dwarf or a gnome?
Yeah. So
a little race. You get it?
Yeah, I get it. A little race. Yeah. So we say little faction these days, though.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, So there's that race in the campfire to get those scoring spots, and you have tokens that are 2, 3, and 4 points, and you have to put the 2 down first, and so they go up the more of those you can claim. And then, of course, there's the whole, oh, you took the card I wanted player interaction. Other than that, it's a bit of a multiplayer solitaire game, which are the ones that are the biggest hits when it's just me and my wife playing a game. She enjoys that. I enjoy that. So,
And well, to be
it's a
fair,
fun game.
when my wife and I come up, that's also a big hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
More
Yeah,
fun
your wife and
multiplayer
my
games.
wife tend to be a little bit on the same page as far as
Yeah.
styles of game.
And I'm there in a big way too. I like more competitive stuff too, but I love a good multiplayer solitaire game. So
Yeah, I don't
it's a hit
understand why
so
that gets
far.
such a bad rap. Like, I have a great time with that.
Yeah, you're solving your own little puzzle, and it matters less if you win. Like it always feels good if you got the best score, but it doesn't matter if you win. It's whether you had fun solving your own little puzzle.
Yeah.
And yeah, as long as you find reasons to talk to each other during the game, and you're not completely secluded from each other, like you're playing your game and they're playing their game, like there's still interaction, it's just not conflict.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, well, we'll try that one. So, but my first one is one that I was supposed to play the heck out of this and cover it back in December, January. And it just, for various reasons, just didn't work out. And I haven't been able to get back to it, but finally I did. And this is called Wizards of the Grimoire. Or my favorite, so very wrong about games, that they call it the Pew Pew Bookie Book because of the very generic sounding title. Yeah. So Pew Pew Bookie Book, or Wizards of the Grimoire, is a 2-player only card battler. Think like Magic the Gathering vibe. And what you do is you have a series of 10 spells out on the board. You start the game, each player is going to have 2 of them. Each player is going to have 2 spells out. And on your turn, you're going to be able to draft a spell. So just take one that's on the board and add it to your tableau of spells. And you're limited to 6. So if you ever have 6, you either don't draft or you have to replace one. And then you're going to draw 3 mana cards. And on the reverse side of the mana card is going to say 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then you get to run your engine of spells. And each spell will have a mana cost in cards. So if I want to zap you with a lightning bolt, it might cost 2 mana. And so I just take any 2 cards I want, doesn't matter what number it is, and I place them face down on top of the card or just above the card. And then at the beginning of every turn, every spell I have that has mana on it, I get to take one off and discard it. And once there's no mana on it, the spell is recharged, I can cast it again. And then at the end of the turn, I can take one of my remaining mana, if I have any, and just zap you for whatever number's on that card. But what gets kind of cool is the crazy variety of spells that you have. So like I had one spell, it's called like Boom Drop, and it didn't do anything until I would discard card mana off of the card. And then whatever number was on there would be the damage the other player would take. But it was like delayed damage. Some cards let you. I had one that I just loved. It was driving Mark crazy, which was called Truce. And you could give me 2 of your mana cards out of your hand. But if you didn't want to do that, that's okay. I get to draw 5. And so it's like just stuff. One, he had a card that just was driving me nuts where he would cast it, and then whatever number card he hit me with at the end of the round, if I didn't play the exact number that he played, I could not hit him back at the end of the round. So it's all kinds of little stuff. And I thought it was going to be impossible because there's 70 different spells, and you just are like, what does this do? Like if I sat you down to play Magic, it'd be a nightmare, right? Because you don't know what anything does. But you only got 6 of them. It's pretty simple. I am super impressed by it, and it's possibly going to be the 3rd one in my 2-player games that I'm always pushing people to play. So,
okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is you're going to play this at KublaCon.
Okay. Schedule Pew Pew Bookie Book.
Yeah. If you could have your now renamed Pew Pew Bookie Book schedule you to play Pew Pew Bookie Book, that would be great. But it's actually called Wizards of the Grimoire, people. You can actually get a copy of it, I think, right now. But very, very cool. The only problem I have with it, and this is, I'm salty about it, is I hate the way the cards feel.
Oh.
Like they're thick, but I don't know. There's like no texture on them, and they don't slide.
You need sleeves.
Yeah, but the problem is, and that's fine, but I don't know if it'll all fit back in the cool little magnetic box if I have it sleeved. It might make, maybe if I get like the penny sleeves, they're like super thin, like maybe. So I guess I need to go get some penny sleeves and then see. So I'm very concerned about that. Then what if there's an expansion? And then I need that expansion. And then these are real problems.
Yeah, definitely.
That I have. All right. So what's the next one you've been playing lately?
So I was going to mention, it's been a couple of weeks since I got it to the table because we had a con in between, but I've been playing through Legacy of You.
Me?
Didn't talk about this you.
Wow.
So Legacy of You, why you? The game from the solo only game.
Well, because I'm running the podcast. That's why me.
Yeah. And it's your legacy that we're tarnishing here.
Yeah, I'm really hoping I got one more in me. So go ahead, try again.
So Legacy of You is the solo only game from Shem Phillips of Garfield Games. You are playing through a campaign.
I thought you were playing through.
Yeah, definitely.
There we go. I got my 3.
There it is. So I am playing through a campaign of trying to dig canals to prevent the annual damage that floods are having on the community. That's basically the backstory of the game. And you're playing through a tableau. You're trying to build the different sections of the canal. And there's a race to it because there are barbarians coming in trying to attack you. So you have to fend them off. And also every time you advance the canal, it increases the number of barbarians, or the more you advance it, the more barbarians.
Is you a historical figure, the YU, or is it just the name that they picked? Do you know?
So I have not looked it up. It certainly reads like this is a real person. Like he was an architect or a builder or whatever that the emperor sent out to do this, and his father had failed at this job, and so his legacy is that he succeeded where his father failed and built these canals and all that. But yeah, I need to look it up. I don't know if it's a real story. It certainly feels like a real story, but I don't know for sure. So there's a lot of engine building to it. You're building little structures that go out, and those give you abilities. At the beginning of every turn, you are getting a bunch of resources, and the more structures you build, the more resources you get at the beginning of the turn. There's a lot of card play involved, some light deck building. There are villager cards that come out, and you can draft those into your deck. And every time your deck runs out, you have to kind of cycle through the whole barbarian thing. So the bigger you get your deck, the more you're keeping the barbarians from coming in. So that helps, but then you also want the cool cards to come up more often. So there's that little tension. I'm really enjoying it. You play through it until you've either won 7 games or lost 7 games. So the campaign can be up to 13 games long, right? So if you keep losing, winning, I've played 4 games so far. I think I won 3 of them. But every time you win, there's a card you reveal that puts some new challenge in the game. And every time you lose, there's something that gives you a little benefit. So it's a neat little system. The insert for the game is amazing. It's really designed so you just put everything away real quick, and that saves your game. There's a section for the story deck where new cards come from, and then there's a section for the history deck, which is where you put cards that aren't going to be in the game anymore, and then you can reset the whole thing and start the campaign over again. So it's not like a legacy game.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to bug you to let me borrow that afterwards.
Absolutely. I think you'd like it.
Yeah,
it's really light for a solo campaign game and thinky.
Yeah, so the next one, I'm kind of torn on which one I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to go with this because we talked a little bit about it in the last episode when we were talking about the Valeria world. And this one's called Castellans of Valeria. And this is hitting Kickstarter in June. But I've been playing it through a few times, and just Friday night, Streamline Matt and Manic Mark came down. We did a 3-player playthrough, which we recorded, and I was kind enough not to bother you to come down and record again just after DonCon. I thought about your wife and your family and how they probably want to see you. So I didn't make you come down and join us because I could make you do anything. But this one is a dice drafting, resource management I'm going to say tableau building. That's not really the right word. It's just as you put out your buildings and stuff, you unlock powers. So, it's that kind of tableau build, right? And area control. And there's 5 regions of this city. And ostensibly you are a Castellan, which I guess is a dude that runs a city. I would assume runs a castle, but it's not really a castle. Or maybe just, I don't know, whatever. And you're trying to do it the best so the king will give you whatever the king is going to give you. I don't know. But you play over 5 rounds, and each round of the first 4 rounds, only 3 of the 5 districts of the city are going to score for the area control. And everything you put out into the city, manors or temples or citizens, are going to give you control points, power for each region. And so you're putting these things out onto the board, which of course costs resources, and you're getting the resources when you draft your dice at the beginning of the turn. So you might take wood, which you can use to build manors, or stone, you can build temples, or food to get people, or magic. And the magic one is kind of cool because it's a wild, but you can only use it to copy something you're already using. So I couldn't use 3 magic to be 3 wood, but I can use 1 wood and 2 magic to be 3 wood, or whatever it is. So it's a neat little resource. And then there's gold and influence. And it's got these 4 tracks you're going up. And if you played any of the Valeria games, you probably recognize the symbols. It's got like a little key thing and a helmet thing. They always use the same symbols, which is kind of this world they're doing. But that's also going to be points at the end of the game. And as you go up these tracks, you get bonuses the higher up these tracks you go. And of course, almost everything you build and put into a district is going to make you go up 1 or 2 of those tracks. And the type of thing you build is going to make you go up more or less on these different influence tracks, they're called. And it's a clever game. Like I'm pretty pleased with it because, one, I don't have any Euro area controls really. It's area control is usually pretty nasty and mean, and Euros are usually pretty not nasty and mean. So we all had a good time. I know since it was only the second, or we played half a game and then we restarted and we recorded. So they hadn't played through an entire game like I had. And they both found that there was bits that they were losing the plot on. Like, oh gosh, I forgot that I can put ships out, and those ships I can move them around to different districts, so they give you power each turn. So you can move that. They forgot about. There's a few things they forgot about, so they felt like they were missing some stuff. And what's like a deceptively simple area control, because everything is 1 point for the most part. Like you put it out, yeah, it's worth 1 point, but it's not worth 1 point. And so they kind of fell into the trap of, yeah, you just, put stuff out and you're just slowly going to be raising your power there. But no, there's like more to it. Like there's some serious depth and crunch to the strategy of how you get stuff out there. And it's a cool game. I was very intrigued by it. I enjoyed it. Sadly, I just packed it up. I have to send it off, so we can't play at Kubla Khan. But the only big, there's a couple production things they need to work out, I think. But the only big downside is, like, we played at 3, and I've also played it at 2. I think you need 4 or 5 because you're doing area control, and your first, second, and third place will get points. And they have a little mechanic of there's these like green strongholds that'll be out on the board, which count as a point. So you can't just throw anything in there and win. But that kind of goes away pretty quick. But it's a pretty cool game. I don't know how much you would like it because of the area control. I know that's not usually your jam, but it's also very point salad.
Yeah, and that I do like.
Yeah, so I feel like you're probably torn already. A
little bit.
Yeah,
certain games, area control really works for me.
So what was that?
I said for certain games, area control really works for me.
Yeah, it wasn't Matt's favorite. Because for those of you don't know Matt, like he's pretty low on Euros.
Yeah. In
general, he's really high on area control, and he likes dice. So I thought, okay, we'll see what happens. And it's not the type of area control that you usually think of area control, where it's mean and nasty and you're doing stuff to it. You can't take anything from anybody.
Right.
You just build your stuff better. So it might be up your alley. We'll have to look at it when the campaign launches in June and see what's up. All right, so what's your other recently played? Then we'll do to what's next, and we'll move into the real topic.
I think that's probably it for me. Like everything else I played recently was at.
Oh, that's right. You've already done 2. That's right. We both done 2. Yeah. What I'm talking about. What's next for you? What's next on the table?
So I've got a couple people coming over today, and you're welcome to come over. It's the teenagers, as you call them.
Oh yes, that's right. Your teenage friends, right?
Yeah. Because they're only in their 30s.
Yeah, so I appreciate that when put on the spot while being recorded, you felt you could invite me over. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Come on over.
No. We did. Beatrice, the board game dog, has a bulging disc, so we're staying home. Yeah, taking care of her.
So I'll be teaching them Earth. One of them requested that, and then I've got Skinkansen Zero Kai, which I have played solo once or twice when I first got it, and I have not gotten it to the table.
What is it again?
It's called Skinkansen Zero Kai.
What on earth is that?
It's a train building game.
Oh my gosh.
I know your favorite. So it's about building the Tokaido line in Japan. I believe it was for the Olympics when they were there in Tokyo. They built a train, as cities do when the Olympics are coming. And I remember it being really interesting, and it's just it went on the shelf in the corner and hasn't come off. And so when they asked what I wanted to play, I said, I really want to get this to the table and give it a try. I cannot describe it intelligently because it's been so long, and I'm going to be reading the rule book as soon as we're done here so I can refresh myself on how it plays so I can teach them.
So my next one it's literally on the table right now. I've already actually started. I paused to come over. Is Coloma. Now, there may be some weird cuts here, people, because I don't know what I'm allowed to actually say right now and what I'm not allowed to say right now. But I got to play around with the new expansion stuff that's coming. And it's very early on in it. It's literally, it's print and play stuff that I have right now just to test it out. And if you don't know, Coloma is a fantastic, quick, simultaneous play Euro that's one of the best real high player count Euros out there. I think it's fantastic. But what they're doing is they're doing a reprint, and they're based, I forget what the expansion is going to be called, but it's on GameFound right now. You can go ahead and follow it. But basically, this expansion makes it Coloma 2.0. And so you have a choice. You can play the original 1.0 light version or 2.0, which makes it more gamerly. It makes some of the choices harder. It makes the core mechanic of the original game is this boom or bust. And if too many people go to the same thing, you're going to bust, you get to do less actions. But now, sometimes you legitimately want to bust. And that becomes part of the decision, because when you bust, some of your buildings that you build become more powerful. When you bust, there's a whole new mechanic where you are actually sending an expedition out to explore the wilderness, and it's dangerous, and you can build these waterfalls and stuff instead of rivers that will let you avoid the really dangerous parts, because if you don't, your dudes, and they're actually called dudes in the game, your dudes will die, which are negative points. And so to avoid that, you have to build these waterfalls, and every time you bust, you have to move along this trail. But as you move along the trail, you're going to get bonuses, you're going to get points. Depending on what waterfall you build, you're going to get extra bonuses you're going to pick. It's really, really doing some clever stuff. And again, everybody, you may have just heard me say it's doing some clever stuff because I had to cut out everything I just said. And the other thing is, Don knows this. So that's on the table right now. Really, really excited about it. The new stuff, I think, is really, really good. And you're going to be able to play either version, which I think is also great. So, got your friends who aren't really, heavy gamers? 1.0. You got your real nerds coming over? Will's coming? 2.0. So I'm pretty excited about it.
I am too, now that you say Coloma is one of those games where I feel like there are lots of decisions in it. And if you ask me if it needed an expansion, I'd say no. But everything you just described is super intriguing, and it sounds crunchy and interesting. And so I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm looking forward to trying it solo too.
The fun thing that I love about it is they changed the gunfight a little bit.
Oh, really?
So And now we're doing a deep dive here, so people. So if you don't know how to play Coloma, you're a little bit lost. But there's a gunfight, and when you can put your dudes out to defend the town, if you're all the way at the front, you're only going to be able to put down one dude. If you're all the way at the back, you can put out 5 dudes, and there is a slight advantage to being all the way at the front of the fight, because then if there's a tie with who's helped with the fight the most, you get the tiebreaker. And so that's still there. That kind of tie who wins, who loses. But there's an added benefit, because now when you get to the gunfight, you literally shoot down the gunmen one by one, starting at the front. And so for every gunman you shoot down, that's a point. Sure. So now there's an added bonus to where, well, shoot, if you think maybe 4 is going to win, maybe you just take the very front spot and then the 3, and you're going to get 4 extra points, because once all the gunmen are shot down, there's no more gunmen. So if you have 6 at the back, but there's only 4, and the someone has 4, in front of you, you're not going to get those 4 bonus points. Which I was like, I don't know that we need that. I was just playing this morning. I was like, oh, that's fun. I really like that, because now it makes you think. I like that. Yeah, now there's a little added benefit to jumping in at the end if you're already winning. It's like, I should get in there for a couple points. So anyhow, I'm very excited about it. I haven't done a lot with it yet, but we'll see. And I want to add something I want us to start doing on this, because this isn't a game I have coming up I'm going to play anytime soon. But what's a game you got a hankering to play? Don't talk about it. Just a real hankering. I'll go first, so I haven't made you think about it. Yeah. But I've been looking at it. It's right here. It's this wonderfully imperfect game that I have called Galaxy Hunters. It's got too many resources. You got your giant stompy mechs going all over. Yeah, the
too many resources game.
Yeah, I really want to play this. I have a bad hankering to play. I don't know when I'll do it. So that and Madara too. I got just a hankering to play. I don't know when.
You've got me wanting to turn around and look at my shelves to figure out what I really want to play. So I got Bamboo at Dice Tower West, and learned it there, played it a couple of times there, and really, really enjoyed it. And I have not gotten it to the table to teach the family or to teach you, and I really like it. It's a game from Devere Games. It's in the exact same size box as Red Cathedral, which a lot of people have played and really enjoyed, and everybody says there's so much game in that little tiny box. And this is very similar. I don't think it has quite as much as Red Cathedral, maybe, but it's a really cool little efficiency puzzle game. You're decorating your house. You're using bamboo shoots to do this unique little action selection thing. And I'm itching to play it again.
All right. So we're moving into the topic, and that is glorified game day cons. Is what I'm going to call it. So last year we did this. We had Don Con, and we had Don Con because it rhymes. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's
my house.
Yeah. Don Con and it had to be at your house, because otherwise it wouldn't be Don Con.
Right.
And it turned into a little bit of a thing, because Peter Vaughn came up from Los Angeles. He's a publisher of Cardboard Alchemy, and he brought the prototype of Andromeda's Edge, and people were coming out, and we just had a lot of people come and play these games. So we did it again this year, and it became a little bit of a thing that people were actually asking Don, how can they come? I had people texting me while I was posting pictures, how do I get a ticket to Don Con? So just talking about that. And we're going to talk about kind of just the 3 top moments that we have. And I actually have a video, my best of Don Con, coming out. It's probably already out by the time you get to listen to this or see this. And I ranked all the games that we played. So I'm just going to get Don just kind of rank his top 5 of his 20 or so, whatever that he actually got to play. So I'm going to start with that. Don, how would you rank your top 5 games that you played at Don Con? So starting 5, if you can do that, or 4, however many you can do.
I'll see if I can do that on the fly. I guess, first of all, while I'm thinking about that, I mean, this was not a glorified game day. This is a glorified game weekend.
Oh, good point. Yes. Yeah. It's not a glorified game day con if it doesn't actually expand to do at least 3 days. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So Peter flew in late morning Friday. I picked him up. We waited for you to show up. We played games until midnight plus. Then you came back the next morning. We played till midnight plus, and then Sunday we played until it was time to take Peter back to the airport. So it was wall to wall gaming, as you do. So during that,
And we even had some proto spiel in there. I mean, it's very important. That's the other thing. If you're gonna do a glorified game day con, you gotta have a little proto spiel in there, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you have to have media, right?
Yep.
If there's not media, it's not a con. Will's the media, if you haven't figured that out. Having a publisher there is nice. So we had a publisher there.
Gotta have game designers there.
We did play Yep, game designers were there. We did play a prototype. So we had a proto spiel in one game.
Yep, and con food. And
and con food.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, you got to dig into the con food. So we ate chicken sandwiches and pasta and nachos. Mm-hmm. So we managed it.
Yeah, but more edible versions of con food.
Right.
Very intentional, right? So let's see, number 5. So I'm going to say probably Vindication, which I really enjoy. I've been playing that with you a bit lately. We got that to the table, full player count, 4 players. I think that was later at night on Saturday. And when Will says lots of people showed up to play games at DonCon and DonCon 2, he's talking about Adrian's boyfriend Corbin, Streamline Matt, and anybody else?
No, but that's a full table. We filled your room.
Yeah, so we did get up to 6 players for one or two games.
No, and I will say, and I've pitched this idea. I've pitched this because legitimately people were asking how they can get a ticket to DonCon. And I proposed this, that for DonCon 3, we put 1 ticket up for sale. And it goes on sale, and whoever wants it, you get it, and we'll give you a link to a nearby hotel. It'll be a great room rate of whatever hotels.com says it is. And we can come pick you up in the morning. But if you sleep,
we'll pick you up on his way.
Yeah. I think that because that would really make this a thing. We didn't do any prizes. I guess we need to do prizes.
Yeah. So we'll find a way to upgrade it a little bit next time. I think con food was probably the upgrade this time.
Yeah, I think that was I think that worked well. I think the mistake we made was we didn't have one meal that we DoorDashed in, because let's be real, you also always do that. You're remote enough that we're not going to go out and find a place to eat. But at least once we should have brought something in, because all the small local cons you're always DoorDashing food in. So I think we missed the mark there a little bit.
Even at Dice Tower West is big, but the food is terrible at the hotel, and there's not a lot to want. People go to Denny's, that's where you go if you're going to walk out of the hotel and go somewhere to eat, right? So
go to Denny's and get COVID. Dice Tower West. Wow.
Yeah. We DoorDash there too, and that's a larger con. So DoorDash is becoming a bigger and bigger element of con. So we probably need to add that. We did have badges, by the way. I've got Peter's badge. He left it behind. So just that much more official. We had badges at both DonCons.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you gotta have badges. I'm working on the badges for Powdered Wig Con too right now.
Awesome. And the wigs.
Yeah. I'm thinking if I can find some cheap powdered wigs, absolutely. But that sounds like they're not cheap. Yeah. All right. So Vindication was your number 5.
Yeah, I'll go faster here. So we played Theurgy at full 6-player count, I think for the first time ever.
Yeah. I've played 5 a couple times. The first time was 6.
Yeah, and so that was a lot of fun. I think we talked.
Who won that game, Don?
I did.
Yeah. I mean, but let's recognize that, because I believe you're saying that's your first win.
Yes. Other than one co-op game with you. In co-op mode, we won, but that doesn't really count as me winning. So this is my first time playing. So apparently, I need 5 competitors or opponents to play and win. So that was number 4. Number 3 is probably Monasterium. I'm really enjoying that one. You brought that over. We played that with the really fancy expansion that you got. It was how much money for how many cards?
I think it was $8 on the BGG store, which is kind of a steal because you can't find the dumb thing. But it was for one very floppy paper reference sheet and I think 8 quarter-size tiles. Like it was expensive. On a side note, there is a new Kickstarter coming for the first American printing of Monasterium coming up sometime soonish.
I'm excited about that. I want to get a copy of it, even though I can play your copy.
Well, the copy you'll get will be better. It's going to have it's supposedly going to have a double layered spot on the board so the dice don't fall out. And
well, I like it.
Yeah, apparently yours is going to be better than mine.
Let's see. I don't know. 2 is distilled. It was fun to play that at the full player count. I think we need to get better at it, play more efficiently, and all of that. But I'm really enjoying that game. I've played it a few times solo. Maybe this was my first time playing it multiplayer, and so that was a lot of fun. And then I'm going to put Dwellings of Eldervale at number 1. You know, as much as I've played that game dozens and dozens of times, just, you know, we played this 3-player, just me, Will, and Peter. And we all have a lot of history with that game, especially Peter, of course. You know, Peter developed the game at Breaking Games. He, you know, largely did a lot of the design hand in hand with Luke Laurie. You know, they came up with the game idea on a drive from Publicon back home. And so, you know, he's got a lot of history there. And then Adrian and I play tested it when it was in development. And, you know, we still have the prototype copy here somewhere from that play testing. And so just to sit down, the 3 of us, and play that game at 11 o'clock at night, it was so much fun.
You know, I shouldn't have stayed to play. That was a very hard drive home, but I'm glad it did. It was a lot of fun. Who won that game, Don?
Who won Dwellings? I think that might have been me.
Yeah, it was.
Me. What do you know?
Yeah, it was. It was very close. I thought I had and I talked about this actually a little bit in my video, but there was something intensely fun about it. And I started out just joking because I was kind of tired, but I George Costanza the whole game.
I remember that. Yeah,
all the things that I normally would do, I didn't draft a single or buy a single one of my unique units. And for the first time ever, I was controlling monsters, and I had 2 of them. And I think I was like 3 points away from the win. Like it was in striking distance.
It was like 109, 105, 98.
Yeah, so
score. So it was nice and close.
Yeah, the game it's a blast. Great game. Always enjoy playing it. And it's even though you have it, it's one that I will never get rid of unless someone wants to buy it from me for like $1,200, because I will sell it to you.
Another copy.
Yes, I will absolutely. I will sell it to you right now for $1,200, people. You know, I'll even ship it. I'll cover the shipping on that in the Con US only.
Okay, so that's my very slow top 5.
That's all right. It's okay. All right, so jumping into just kind of our top moments from the con, and I have not actually really thought about this too deeply, but so I'm going to go with my number 3, just kind of moment of the con is I'm going to go with I'm going to go with abandoning you guys to go set up Theurgy while you were playing this game, Boast or Nothing. I started playing the game, and then Streamline Matt showed up. And so Matt likes trick-taking games. This is a weird little trick-taking game. He likes them, and he's good at them. And I was I think tied for first or second at the time. I'm like, Matt can handle this. I'm going to go set up the next game for us, make some nachos, and just claim that I won.
There you go.
And he didn't get a single point the entire game. I'm so salty about it, but it made me very happy that I could just be so very wrong, like exceedingly wrong. And so I'm so salty about it. I didn't even put it in my games that I played, my games of the con list. All right, okay. So that's my number 3. Because I'm going to remember that for a long time. So I guess that's what this is. You know, the things that you're going to remember the most.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I wrote down setup was one of the things that I liked. And you know, it was really just that, you know, somebody else could have picked the game, but, you know, somebody was always willing to go off and set up the game while other people were doing things. And it doesn't always happen. I don't know why, but that's something that stuck out at me. You know, like you went and did that. You went and set up the next game while we were playing Boast or Nothing. I think we were making food at one point, and Peter came upstairs and set up one of the games, like something that took a long time. It just like there, I don't know. It had kind of a community feel to it, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but just
Yeah. Well, it's always nice
just
when
cool
you
it
don't
down.
always
Something
have to set it up.
Yeah.
I tried to do it another time with Concordia, and you have so Don has so many expansions for this thing. It was incomprehensible in that box, and I tried for a while. I watched a video for a while, and finally, I just walked away. I said, "I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to do."
that probably should have been my top 5. Concordia was a lot of fun. I have
Who
a bit
won
of a
that game?
mission when. Well, let's see. Oh, you did.
Yeah.
What do you
That's
know? I have a bit of a mission whenever I hear that Will hasn't played one of the modern classics. I'm on a mission to teach him, and this was one.
He's been banging on about this one for a while, and every time I
Yeah.
look at like what it looks like, the board, I'm like, "Oh my god, it looks so boring."
It's a very dry board, but you
yeah.
enjoyed it.
I did.
You won.
All right, so what's your number 2 moment? Well, I figure out mine.
So, actually, really just sitting down to eat meals. This is a thing that I often don't manage to do at conventions. I did it better at Ice Tower West this year. Like there were times when I went off like with a single person and had a one-on-one meal and just like talk. And like usually like BenderCon, our very local con, it'll get to like 10 o'clock and I'll realize I never had lunch or dinner.
Yeah, and then we'll do like a DoorDash end, and we like snarf it down like while playing a game or because I think we did that. We played. Did you play Mysterious Manor at DungeonCon with me, or was that just Adrian that played?
Just Adrian did.
Yeah, but like while we were playing that, in between turns, I was like walking over to the other table and eating stuff and like walking back.
Yeah,
but yeah.
So I really enjoyed that we stopped and we'd eat a whole meal and we would just talk. And it was just nice to like catch up and talk. We still got a lot of games in, and I certainly appreciate getting so many games in at cons that we miss meals. That's fun too, but it's one of the things that's memorable about this one. It's just we sat and talked, caught up. We talked about even things not about games sometimes.
Yeah. That's a good one. Wow, that's a good one. I should have taken that one first. All right, but I'm gonna for number 2. I think I'm actually going to go with just the whole experience of the Concordia. So I got there, and as the days progressed, I'd come a little bit later and a little bit later every day because I just it was hard. And so I got there, and you and Peter were playing some small builder deck thing. You're like, "Oh, this would be real quick. We'll be done quick." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I'll just watch this video on Concordia, learn how to play, so you don't really have to teach me, and I'll go set it up." Then I watched a video, and then I couldn't figure out how to set it up, so I watched another video, and I still couldn't figure out how to set it up. And I came back down. I was like, "You guys done?" They're like, "We're like halfway done." Like 25 minutes later, finally, we finish. We go up and play. And then God love Peter, he was like teaching me how to play. And I was like, "No, I got it. Like I've watched like all the videos on the internet for this game. Like I got it." And we go through, and then I usually don't care if I win, but I'm gonna hold on to winning that game because the game ends when someone gets all of their villages out or build whatever the little building things are out, or the deck runs out. And for whatever reason, neither Peter nor Don saw that I was close to being out. And then suddenly I was out, and both of them was like, "What? You're out?" And it was beautiful. And then I lost. And I was like, "Hold on." And I went back and I recounted and realized I'd missed like one factory or whatever somewhere and won. And it's a really fun game. I even downloaded the app, which I haven't played a ton of it, just like when I'm in between classes. If I'm just waiting, I'll just play a couple rounds. So that turned out to be fun. And Don was right. It is a game that I should have played. This one. So I think you're like 1 for 2 on those. All right, so that's my number 2.
The other one?
I feel like you've done this one more time, and I was like, okay, yeah, I did that.
Okay, I'll figure it out. So it's funny how we're syncing up here because the third thing I wrote down was figuring out games with Peter, and that Pocket Master Builder was one of them. It's this little tiny one. I had just bought it when he first showed up on Friday. We were looking for 2-player things to play while we waited for you to get done with work, and I had Hamlet sitting on the stack waiting to be played for ages. I read the rules months ago, and we sat down and just kind of muddled through it. And I want to say most gamers don't have a lot of patience for that process. Figuring out the game as you're playing it. We like it when somebody has read the rules or watched the video and comes ready to teach. But every once in a while, I like just sitting down and muddling through a game. And so Peter and I did that with Hamlet, and we did that with Pocket Master Builder while we were waiting for you on Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. And just that little process is fun. And Pocket Master Builder was an especially interesting challenge because it's a game from Taiwan and the rule book is not especially well translated. So we really had to kind of figure out the intention. And once we got there, that game was good. You and I need to play it at some point. It's a deck of cards or, 3 decks of cards that fit in one tuck box, but there's a lot of thinky Euro-ness to it. So that was a memorable experience, is just kind of sitting down and figuring out a game together. My wife and I will do that sometimes. She has the patience for that. She's not a pro gamer who's trying to have the most efficient game every time. She will sit down and figure out a game with me. And I like that now and then.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, it's a little more nebulous, but I feel like everybody had a game or two that, because we talked about this like weeks in advance of like, what do we want to get played? Like everybody had a couple games that they had on the list that they really wanted to get played. And I feel like I think we got all of them, the games that people like really wanted to play. Like, you always have like tiers of stuff. So like all the stuff that I brought didn't get played, but I really wanted to play Guildmaster and I really wanted to play Theurgy. We made it happen, and it happened. And I thought that was great. Peter, or you really want to play Concordia? We got that. We really got Distilled, and then we had just some fill-ins here and there. Like the Vindication was just a fill-in, which was a great fill-in. Dwellings was just a fill-in. The best fill-in, I think, was Sorcerer City.
Yeah,
which yeah. So I feel like everybody. No one left like, man, I really wanted to play. Because sometimes that happens at a con. Like he's like, I really want to play this, but then it just never happens.
Oh, always.
It's always
bag of games and never play any of them.
Yeah, it's very like it's so weird. Like I feel like you have to like go on a mission. Like every big con we go to, I'm on a mission to play Mysterious Manor. Like I will play that game if I have to tie you down to the chair. We're gonna do this, but. Yeah, I feel like everyone got to get their things out this time, which I thought was just awesome. That's all we got. That's our 3. So now is everyone's favorite part of the episode, which is you should become a channel member. Make sure you do that. It's very simple. If you're watching this on your computer, then you just click the join button. If you're on your phone, there's a little link in the description. If you listen to the podcast, there's also a link. So there you go. You should do it. It's great. We just got a couple more members, so like it's getting exciting, and I'm actually going to start a members only occasional video coming up as soon as the members decide what it is that they want to see. Right now, it's going to be a mail call of what's derived and kind of initial impressions and stuff, but we'll see what it winds up being. So everybody should do that. All right, so now we're going to talk about our featured game, and this one's actually a total audible from what we were going to talk about, and we've changed our mind at the last minute, which is very appropriate because that's actually how we played the game recently, though both Don and I have played the game plenty prior to this past DonCon, and that is Sorcerer City from Skybound Games and Druid City Games. Is it also Druid City Games? I can't recall.
I believe so.
Yeah, so which is designed by a local to us designer, Scott Caputo, and it is a real-time tile placement and also tile building, think deck building, but they're all tiles game, in which the theme of it is in this city of sorcerers, every year they move the city around for reasons. I don't know. But they move the city blocks around. And so that's kind of what you're doing is you're moving the city blocks all around the town or the city and trying to score points. And you're going to score points based on the orientation of the tiles and the colors. And there's 4 resources. You're going to get prestige, points, which are just literally points for the win. You're going to get influence. And at the end of each round, whoever has the highest influence will get their first pick of various awards. There is gold, which is going to be how you buy more tiles and build your deck. And then there is raw magic, which at the end of every round, each player is going to get to secretly decide where they're going to use that raw magic. Are they going to boost their influence or their points or whatever? And you're going to play through 4 rounds. And each round, your deck's getting bigger. And there's various monsters that are going to be coming out, which are going to mess with you completely in some way, shape, or form. And the time, though, stays the same. And we played at DonCon, we played on normal mode, which means you have 2 minutes each round. And so at the beginning of the game, you got plenty of time to get your 10 or 12 tiles out. By the end of the game, you might have 30 tiles, and suddenly you're trying to work out how to get these things out there in time before you run out of time. So that is Sorcerer City. Plays quick. I think the 3 of us played it in about 45 minutes or so. Probably less than that. I mean, because you're only doing 8 minutes of actual gameplay.
Yeah.
Figuring it out, and then it's how you're building then you're thinking of building your deck and some scoring and stuff. So it's probably a 45-minute game, 40 minutes, maybe a little less. All right, so I'm gonna let you go first, Don. Your kind of pros of the game.
I love the tension of that 2 minutes. It feels so easy the first round. When you just have that basic starter deck, it's deceptively easy to get you can just be like, la-di-da, I'm gonna make slow decisions around where this tile's gonna go. And then the second round, there's a little more tension, but by that last round, you're really trying to rush. And I think I had 12 tiles left over at the end when the timer went off. And so, when you do the shopping between rounds, you're adding amazing tiles, and then you get to the last round and you're really terrified that those amazing tiles aren't going to come out. They're going to be stuck at the bottom after you've shuffled your stack. So I really like how that tension builds. I love the market for the game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the tension, I agree with you that the tension's great, and especially once you start adding those monsters in there, because some of the monsters just ruin your day. But if you can plan it right, if you plan it right, you can mitigate it. But you have that, when's it going to come out? And I'm trying to save it so I don't get one of my things blown up. And as Don pointed, we ganged up and bullied Peter, and we both got an award where we got to send our lich, which would raise skeletons into your city. We just, both of us gave him to Peter, and suddenly he had an undead city with skeletons and liches everywhere. But yeah, so I'm with you on that. You were just talking about the purchasing and the.
Yeah, the market is really cool. There are lots of choices, so you're not really stuck with boring tiles to choose from, and you can kind of choose a strategic direction. I want to focus on the rainbows, which are wild, or I want to focus on the shields that give me extra points if I have certain conditions met. And
yeah, because I focused really hard on the purple, the raw magic, and I think you focused on the gold, at least at the beginning. I think.
Yeah, I often play a money strat in this game. The gold lets you buy better cards, but then at the end of the game, the gold doesn't help you any because it doesn't give you any points, except that I managed to buy shields that would give me points for every 2 gold or every 3 gold, whatever it was. And so I was amassing a ton of gold and then turning it into points, and that was pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I think the thing that really works for me is there are definitely a lot of different strategies you can go down. I don't think you can really go down an influence only strategy. I think that's the only one. Yeah. You can't just pile up on that because you're just getting an award for it at the end of each year. But even that, though, you can't ignore it. So it's this fun thing. So you kind of have to get some influence for the most part. And then you can go any of the other 3 ways, and if you are able to build your stack right, it can pay off really, really well. So yeah, I think just works really, really cleverly, and it looks very pretty too.
Yeah, I was gonna that was my other thing I was gonna mention is I have the deluxe version, so it's very. I think the base game has most of.
As near as I can tell, because I just have the core game. Mm-hmm. As near as I can tell, the only difference is the metal coins.
Yes.
And you have one little small expansion, like 3 tiles that come with it. So it's pretty much just the metal coins, which are very cool.
So, metal coins are very cool. For whatever reason, they engineered it so that they can stack and lock together. It's completely unnecessary, but it's really satisfying, and you find yourself stacking them up every time. And all those coins are points that you're accumulating at the end of each round, and so they're really just there to add up for your score at the end of the game. But they're fun to play with between rounds and stack them up. Yeah.
So I'm gonna, and I agree completely with that. I'm gonna jump into kind of the few things I'm like, I don't know about that. The first one is the theme. Like, I don't get it. Like, why are we moving the city around? And maybe it tells us in there. Like, I feel like it's just hubris.
Maybe.
Like, it's a game about hubris. I can make the city better than you.
I mean, it really is just an abstract game.
Yeah. Within, it's like it's pretty. Like, the artwork that they got for it is great. Each player is ostensibly a different wizard, and so or sorcerer, I guess, and you use these cards to kind of vote with how you're doing your raw magic. But they don't make any difference. Like, they look like I wish. Like, they look really cool, but they don't do anything different. So it could have just been colors, but I guess they put the effort into getting the art, and it looks good. So that I have a slight issue with that. The only real substantive issue I have is it takes up so much space. It is ridiculous. Like, you put the markets out there, and it shouldn't. You start the game. Oh, this doesn't take up any space, but we played 3 people, and I would on your 6-person table, and I would argue if we played 4, we would have had a problem. Like, you kept encroaching into my space.
You were encroaching into my space is what was happening.
No. But yeah, it's played up to 6, and I just don't like. You have to have a planet to play that thing with 6.
You'd be playing on 2 tables, possibly. But,
but I guess you could play on 2 tables. There's no reason you couldn't play on 2 tables, I guess.
No.
Maybe there's some monsters that maybe you have to give things to people, like in the game, maybe. But maybe just don't play on. So, yeah, that's a good point. I guess you could play on 2 tables. Oh, see, here's the thing, though. Mm-hmm. There's one other game that I've ever covered that had that capability. It's a game called Overbattle. And it's this huge 4X game that literally the playmat, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and when they sent this to me, then suddenly I couldn't play with anybody, so I literally had to put it on the floor because it's a 4x8 playmat, and I played with Matt, and he had to zoom in on a computer, and I had to set it up, and then I had like phones connected to the Zoom also, trying to move it around, but it is a 4x8, and you can get 2 copies of the game and play on 2 4x8 tables, and I guess your player boards on like other little tables around, like, I don't know. But that's 16 people. That's how that game would play. And that's like a 4-hour game. This is a 40-minute game, and to play 4 people, we need 2 tables.
And to play 6, you need 2 full-size tables.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a con experience. And not a
good wordplay.
Home con.
Yeah. It's just I don't even understand how it gets so big. I don't get it. I do not understand how it takes up so much space, but it does. But anyhow,
thinking about that, I can't think how you'd make it take up less space. It's not like the market is taking up half the table. You can scoot that off to the side. It's really just like, I wouldn't make the tiles any smaller.
I don't know. I think you could make them a little bit smaller. I bet you could cut a quarter off those tiles.
Maybe.
And that would significantly chop it down. But I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just big, and it's deceptively big. It just sprawls. But it's a fun game. Like, it's one that I talked about in my other video. Like, it's stayed on my shelf for a couple of years now. I haven't played in a couple of years because it's a real-time tile-laying game, and that is anathema if you say that to a lot of people.
Those are not magic words for convincing people to play a game.
No. So
this is one that works.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting it played, but I won't get rid of it because it's just a really, really cool game. I don't know if your listeners or viewers, I don't know how easy it is to find copies right now, but I'm sure there's some on the secondary market, if nothing else. I don't know if Skybound is still selling them or not, but cool game. I dig it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that brings us to the to the end of the episode. And as always, Don, you get the honor of today's gaming words of wisdom. What do you got for us? Did you forget again?
So, no, I actually was thinking about this one, and I have kind of a weird connection to something. Like, we don't have hot water right now in my house, and we have a very, very fancy water heater. It's like one of those super efficient coil water heaters, and it is telling me that something is blocking the exhaust pipe. And I'm quite certain it's like a sensor that failed because it's a fancy thing. And this is the second time I've run into this. Like, we had a fancy fridge years ago that kept breaking because it had too many fancy extra components to it. And, I'm convinced that it is never right to get like the fanciest version of an appliance because they've always kind of stretched the engineering just a little bit. I started kind of thinking about this in relation to games, and kind of my gaming words of wisdom is you don't always need the fanciest version of something. And I was connecting this with a prototype that I played at your house recently. And I won't mention the game because the
fancy that's okay.
Is really cool.
I talked about it in the video, and I think it's funded by it right now. Seismic.
Oh, no, not Seismic. I mean, Seismic is just the fancy version, isn't it?
No. They have there's a version which actually got.
Oh, you're right. It goes from $100 to $250 to get the fancy version, right? No, yeah. I'm really thinking of. Right now, I'm blanking on it.
Oh, An Age Contrived?
No, that much more popular game that's out there right now that's funded 1,000,000%. The Ivy Games.
Oh, Fractured Sky.
Fractured Sky. Thank you. Sorry. So just like the fancy version of it is really cool, but we played the retail version, and I found it perfectly satisfying.
Yep.
And so I don't feel the need to get the fancy version of that game. As cool as the magnets are and the miniatures and all of that stuff, that's one game where I find the retail version perfectly satisfying. And so this is me talking to myself as much as to the viewers and listeners out there. You don't always need the fanciest version. Sometimes the thing that just does the job is perfectly satisfying.
Yeah, I also find it funny that I came with 3 different games before we got to it.
Yeah. So there are clearly a lot of examples of this out there. Yeah.
Peter Vaughn is twitching if he's listening to you say that because he needs the deluxe everything. All right, everybody.
Some people are really good at the fancy version, so there are exceptions to this rule.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, the Fractured Sky one looks fantastic. The Age Contrived one, the little token shooter, is just it's so much fun. I love it. And the Seismic, like it does look really cool on the table. I mean, it looks really cool. So there's benefits to it. But in any event, everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or the podcast, like, subscribe, share, consider joining the channel. Make sure you're subscribed on your podcast, whatever it is you got. Get a copy of Backyard Chickens. I'm going to try to put some links down in the description so you can get all that. And as always, thank you so much for watching or listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. The podcast people can't hear you wave, Don.
Bye, all. Let's try not to speak over you.
What is happening here?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
My computer thought I said whatever the code is to turn on its little AI helper there. Yeah, that's weird. And I don't know what the phrase actually is. And I definitely don't know what I said that sounded like the phrase that accidentally turned it on. But it was trying to go find tennis balls for me to buy. Wow, that is a new random cat walking through my backyard.
I have to be careful what I say for the outtakes. Well, I was out trying to calm down chickens in my defense.
I bring the magic.